Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with members of the Inland Revenue Department. I like to call them the IRS, but they don't like that title. So I've been chastised for calling them IRS, but they're the Inland Revenue Department. And I want to welcome Commissioner Karen Aaron. Good to have you. Deputy Commissioner Oris Thomas. Good to have you, my brother. And Assistant Commissioner Charles Benjamin. Welcome to Spotlight. You're running a campaign about taxes.
That's correct.
Why? We don't know enough about taxes?
Yes, everybody should know about taxes, but that doesn't mean you know enough.
Okay.
So we're running a campaign to sensitize and educate the public as to what the department actually does.
So what's your plan? It sounds like you have a plan because you're coming to the public. You never come to the public before. Have you? I never seen the Inland Revenue Department in public before. And so here you are now in public with a campaign to educate us about taxes. You planning to make sure that we pay our taxes? Something sinister?
Well, no, we're encouraging voluntary compliance. But yes, we do have a plan. We have a campaign that's being managed by Mr. Benjamin, so he can tell you something about it.
Okay, Brother Benjamin, tell us about the campaign.
The campaign that we're going to be doing this year, 2015, is pretty much the same as we've done back in 2013. I think back in 2013, we saw the need to educate the general public in relation to the taxes and licenses and fees which are collected at the Inland Revenue Department. And so during that campaign, then we held several meetings at the various communities where we engaged the public as to what we do at Inland Revenue, what are the various taxes and licenses and fees that we collect, and sort of educate them in relation to the legislation governing those taxes, so that persons were able to come and ask questions, and we try to answer the questions and give them examples as to how it works. So it is not by any means new, or it is just an ongoing campaign.
Ongoing education process. What are
Yes.
What are the taxes that we pay?
If I may, Cromwell, the taxes that we pay would be the number one tax that we collect in Inland Revenue will be payroll tax. That accounts for quite a chunk of the budget of the taxes that we collect. And hotel accommodation tax, property tax, self-drive motor vehicle tax, liquor licenses, stamp duty, other fees,
Hotel accommodation,
and check duty. I did say.
You said that.
Yeah. Okay. And you say payroll tax is a major tax. Now, payroll tax. How do we determine what the taxes should be and how much those taxes should be? How government decide how much to take out?
Well, that's governed by legislation.
Okay.
But there are employers who are uncertain, and that's why we're actually starting a campaign so that all businesses are aware, because we have a lot of businesses that start up and aren't even registered taxpayers. And what people don't realize is that taxes is what governs and pays the bills. I mean, the police, fire, schools, and unless you can collect this money, you can't fund these things. So we're trying to encourage people to come in, register, and actually pay their taxes.
So the payroll taxes is what? And how much?
Payroll tax currently is for the two classes, Class A and Class B. A Class A employer would pay 8% deduction from the employee, 6% employer. Class B is same 8% from the employee, 2% from the employer.
And what's the difference in the classes? I mean, why was the Class A and the Class B?
There's certain criteria that you, to be a Class A employee, well,
Okay, the one where it is 8 and 6, you would pay 8 and 6 if you have more than 7 employees, your payroll is more than 150,000 per annum, and your gross receipt is more than 300,000. So if you don't have all 3 criterias, then you're automatically paying 14%, which is the 8 and 6. If you have all 3, then you're Class B, which would be the 8 and 2%.
Okay, so you get a 4% break.
if you're less than all 3.
You get
Not if you have.
if
right?
you get a 4% break if you have a bigger business.
No.
No.
That's, he just said it backwards.
Okay.
If you're over 150, over 300,000 and have more than 7 employees, you automatically pay 14%. Less than that is when you pay the 10%. So the small businesses is who has the benefit.
Okay, I got you. Now, how is the payroll tax? What is it based on? Your salary,
It's based on your salary.
and how
And
do
that can cover a lot of different things. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, what does it cover? What does it cover? When you say your salary could cover a lot of different things, what
Well,
does it cover?
It's your salary and all emoluments that you get. I mean, there's certain ones that are exempt, and that's why we're actually doing a campaign to list them here. Yeah, we're doing a campaign so that people can understand exactly what's taxed and what is exempt. Because we have a lot of, sometimes you have to go back and assess people because they incorrectly determine or have eliminated or don't pay tax on certain items that are taxable.
What a tax and what exempt? Is that too much to
Not,
discuss? No, in this time. Your categories of things that are taxed. and-
Pension payments is one that's not taxed.
That's exempt.
Pension,
exempt.
medical benefits. The list that are taxable is greater than the list that are exempt.
Okay.
But those that you mentioned that are not taxable, like the pension and the medical, those businesses would have to submit their plans for approval by the commissioner in order for them to be exempt. If they're not approved by the commissioner, then they would be taxable.
Okay.
See, retirement benefits aren't taxable, but if you got an incentive to actually take an early retirement, that is taxable. And that there's a lot of confusion within that area as well.
Okay. So people needing to know this information can contact the Inland Revenue Department.
Yes.
Because this is important information to have. How do you know how much money you're making?
Well, in that area, we actually have to take the word for the employer, take the word of the employer. This year, what we've started to do, we're embarking on external audits. So you may find that at some point that we're going to decide to audit you because there's no way that we can actually confirm that what you're submitting to us is correct unless we do external audits.
So you're gonna start checking to make sure that we're telling you the truth.
Well, we're not yet. Well, yes. Yes.
No, I mean this is serious because I suspect that that many people come in and say, well, this is my salary.
Yes.
But they make it much more.
They're making much more. And what we've been finding recently is that there are different now banks requiring certificate of earnings. You require certificate of earnings for different things, and you have people say that they were making so less that now by the time they need it, and they need it to be sufficient, then they have to go back and file correctly, and they get assessed penalties and interest. But that's why we encourage, for, voluntary compliance, because it's not. We're not just taking your money. Like I said, whatever money the government collects goes right back into the community.
So, is there a plan afoot to add, whether it's legislation, or put the necessary means in place to make sure that taxable income is being taxed?
The legislation is there. It's just up for the department to actually
So
manage it.
So there, this campaign is a prelude to enforcement. You're saying to us, listen.
No, well, we've been enforcing all the time.
Okay.
But there are only so many staff, there are a lot of businesses, so you may not get touched. It doesn't mean that you won't get touched sometime in the future.
And Cromwell, as the commissioner is saying, that is the whole idea about the education campaign, so that we can, we can make the taxpayers aware of what is required of them by law. Because as we said, the laws, the taxes and licenses that we collect are all governed by legislation. And legislation does speak to what is required of the taxpayers. So it's a matter of, bringing maybe the new taxpayers up to speed as to what is required, or as well as maybe refreshing the older taxpayers as to what applies.
Well, can you walk us through that whole tax paying process for those of us who've never paid taxes, who think that we shouldn't pay taxes, and who think we can get away without paying taxes? Can you walk us through that process? I have a small business, and I haven't paid taxes, and so what I need to do right away before you catch me.
Well, you see, while you're focusing on maybe the payroll taxes, I mean there are other taxes which are equally important. Or we mentioned one, or Mr. Thomas mentioned one, stamp duty. Or persons may wonder what stamp duty entails. Or stamp duty is such that, or negotiable instruments which are required to be registered must first be stamped at the Inland Revenue Department, such that after they're stamped at the Inland Revenue Department, then they can move on either to the land registry, in the case of land transactions, in the case of things like bill of sales and certain contracts, move on to the registry, or unless that is done, then those transactions are not necessarily valid and couldn't be used in a court of law in some instances. So it is, and then we talk about land or instruments in regards to land. I mean, there are simple things like a land transfer. Someone that's, wants your dad, someone wants to transfer land to you, or that document is a land transfer and requires stamp duty, right? And some of the documents can very well be done, by individuals. If you understand enough about them, then you have a better chance, and you're then better able to negotiate those type of transactions when the time comes.
Yes. But those transactions have built-in enforcement measures, right? I mean, in the sense that you can't get a title to land unless you go through that process.
That's correct.
That is correct.
So you would have to pay stamp duty.
Right,
Yes.
you have,
But
there's
but I
no
don't
question.
And so what I'm getting at is the things that I don't have to do. I'm trying to
Yeah.
I'm trying to encourage help you to encourage persons
to come in
and comply where there is not that available and readily enforceable
Okay, well, to address
Yeah.
what you asked, okay, say that you just started a business. The obvious tax is going to be payroll tax. So you're going to come in and register. So you get a payroll tax account, and you're required to file a return by the 21st of each month, paying the tax that you deducted from the employees. But you may have additional taxes depending on what type of business you are. Say if you're a vehicle rental company, you have to pay the self-drive motor vehicle tax. So that's another tax, and that tax you're required to pay 5% of the rental value by the 15th of each month. So we send out forms, those remittances that you pay, so we expect that every month you're going to come in and pay. And like we said, it's a self-assessment, so if you said that your rental was $10,000 for the month, you're going to pay 5% on that. If you have accommodation, hotel accommodation, whatever, you have another tax. That's going to be the hotel accommodation tax, and that too is payable by the 15th of each month.
So the taxes, your business taxes are paid on the 15th of the month.
The payroll tax
Payroll
is the
and
21st.
motor vehicle.
And what vehicle?
No. Yeah, payroll is the
21st.
21st. Motor vehicle and hotel is
the
the 15th.
15th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have schedules, documented information that persons could come and pick up and have that information stuck up on their wall so they know when their taxes are due?
All that information we do have. We have brochures for each of the type of tax or license that we administer at the department. And it gives the basic information, when it's due, what are the rates, all that information is in the brochure. But I'm sure you would appreciate that with some of the taxes, there's a limited amount of information that you can put in the brochure. And that is where the education campaign is going to come in. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point as to stamp duty, but our persons must understand that if you engage into a transfer, let's say a transfer of land, or stamp duty is paid, yes, you may understand stamp duty is paid, but you don't take that document home and lock it up somewhere, okay? Because unless that document then gets to the land registry department so that the title changes, then you really don't have title.
You don't own the land.
You don't own it. Or similarly, you must understand that there's a time limit involved. Or you have 30 days after that document is negotiated to bring it into Inland Revenue Department and have it stamped. I think similarly, there's also a time limit at the land registry where you must have it there and have it registered as well, or else you may have to pay additional fees.
What I would emphasize with that too, the other tax that he's missing is property tax. Because once it has anything to do with land, that document cannot be stamped until all the property tax is paid.
Okay.
And it has a lot of people whose property tax isn't paid for years until they come and need a document stamp. And unfortunately, the full tax, including the penalties and the interest, has to be paid before you can get those documents stamped.
Yeah, we need to do that with motor vehicles before you get your license. Before you get your license, you have to pay your tickets.
Yes, but yes, but right now we're actually running a campaign from September to December. Anybody who has property tax outstanding for prior years, the interest and the penalty will be waived.
Really?
So,
well, that's good. That's good to know. I hope people are watching.
Right, yes. and in fact, I think we need to stress as well, or remind property owners that in fact property taxes became due on the 1st of September. And so generally up until the 30th of November, persons would have paid the current year's tax without incurring penalties. Penalties would kick in on the 1st of December of each tax year. However, as the Commissioner said, the Honorable Premier and Cabinet has granted amnesty to all property owners who have arrears on their property, that they may now come into the Inland Revenue Department and pay up all the outstanding taxes without incurring interest.
So from now
until the end of December 2015.
You could bring your property tax current without penalty.
Without penalties, or without interest.
Well, thank you, Honorable Premier.
Yes, because what most people don't realize that property tax incurs 20% penalty, and it's compounded.
It is compounded.
Okay, let's talk about.
And if I may, Cromwell, that interest, we don't have discretionary powers to waive it. So the only time we can get waived is if there's an amnesty.
So there's an opportunity that persons who are in that category.
Yeah. I mean, we're encouraging people to come in and get it paid. I mean, we sought approval to get the amnesty because we find it has a lot of people who continually come.
We have a lot of outstanding taxes.
Well, yeah, but it has a lot of people who come to try to get the penalty waived, and because it's not in our power as Mr. Thomas has said.
To waive that
Yes.
those penalties. But do we have a lot of outstanding taxes?
That is an area where we're currently trying to computerize. So the exact amount is unknown. But I would say yes, based on the number of requests we've gotten in the last couple months.
Okay, so people are taking advantage of the amnesty.
Well, no, they were.
Well, the amnesty has just started.
The amnesty just
On the
started.
first-
The
on
amount
the
of
1st of
requests we got to
September.
waive the penalties.
Oh, okay.
Right,
So
we've had a number of requests.
So people came in and,
Yeah.
and then realized that there were penalties and
Right.
Well, you see, like,
try to make a deal.
as I think as the Commissioner, Mr. Thomas, is saying, or you do understand that when you walk into a lending institution and you said, I want to mortgage my property to get X number of dollars. And then they're going to say to you, well, we have to do a search at the Inland Revenue Department to determine whether your taxes are up to date or not. A similar search as would be done at the land registry to ensure that you have clear title to your property. And if your taxes are not up to date, then they're going to say to you, no, you can't have any money until you've satisfied the debt at the Inland Revenue Department. And it doesn't matter whether you want $100 or $100,000 or what it is. The law simply says that all the taxes must be paid,
So there's no payment plan.
and there's no payment
And
plan.
there's no payment plan.
Right.
Because that was my next question.
Yes. I mean, you can have a payment plan if you don't need a document stamped.
Right.
But once you need a document stamped, the
All the
full
taxes
has
must
to
be
be paid.
You're saying in your mind, I got you.
Actually,
But I think you know, and I think it's important for the public to know that you might think you're getting away with not paying your taxes and you're not going to get caught, right? Because you don't see anybody looking over your shoulder enforcing.
right. That is what happens. I can tell you.
Right. So then you come to make a transaction of some
Then
kind,
you get caught.
and then boom, you're busted.
Yep.
But,
Yes.
but that has happened with the other taxes as well, because sometimes they need a good standing certificate. Because some of the banks, based on what transactions they're doing now, require that good standing certificate. So then they come in to Inland Revenue knowing that they haven't been paying and have this issue. They cannot get a good standing certificate that says that they're in good standing. So you're right. They hide behind and they don't pay us. So it's only when they need it. And we do say,
it's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. Yeah. Inland Revenue Department is going to get you. So go pay. Go pay.
so we encourage voluntary compliance and would prefer taxpayers to, you know, try to be prompt and on time, because, I mean, we don't want to penalize you.
So do you have any specific methods of collection, or you just wait for persons to come in and pay?
No, we go through the arrears list, and like I said, it has about roughly 4,000 just payroll taxpayers. And we only have 29 staff. So you may not get touched
Right now.
right now.
But when you want a good standing certificate.
But yes.
Or you want to get a
So
loan
we
from
do
the
it in
bank.
different ways. We go out and we do surveillance and tackle certain customers. We tackle some of the high value ones, those that have been delinquent for a period. And the others get caught when they need something from us.
Okay. Before 9:30 o'clock, anything that we should have gotten to that we didn't get to yet?
Well, I think what we can say in relation to the campaign is that we're going to be notifying the public, or in terms of all the meetings that we're going to be having, or we're going to have tongue meetings, or like in Virgin Gorda, Anegada, Jesmond Dyke, several places on Tortola, or we would have seen the billboard that is up, or talking about the property taxes. We're going to be utilizing the various media houses to get the word out, so that the taxpayers would know when we're going to be in their area. And of course, we always encourage taxpayers to come into the Inland Revenue Department. When you come into the department, somebody is going to sit with you and or try and assist, or as best we can, or so that the taxpayer becomes more knowledgeable, and so as a result of that, then you're better able, to satisfy the department in terms of what is required of each and every taxpayer. So we do encourage them to come in.
And I think it's important, personally, I think it's important to say that you guys do help and you are there to help. I mean, I've had experience with you, and I know that you're not out to hurt anybody. And so the public really don't need to be afraid to come in.
Definitely not.
And talk to you and get it. It's better to get it straightened out now.
Yes.
When the penalties are not so high.
Sure.
You don't wait till when the penalties get up in the thousands, and then basically your life stops. Because if you come to get a loan, or you come to get a good standing certificate, or you come to do anything that is going to benefit your life, and your quality of life and your livelihood, and you can't do that thing,
Yes.
I mean, that's not the time you want to find out. So I think it's important. And then one last thing before you go, what are some of the other penalties for non-compliance? Any list of penalties that you have for non-compliance other than the ones we discussed?
Or other penalties you find, like with liquor license. Or liquor licenses, most of the types of liquor licenses that are issued by the senior magistrate are good for 6 months. I think there are 2 licenses which are good for a year, the wholesale license and the still license. All the other types of liquor licenses must be renewed every 6 months. Or failure to renew your license, or failure to pay your license, once you have applied to the licensing magistrate for a renewal or for a new license, then you come to Inland Revenue and you pay for that license. A failure to pay, then when the time comes for renewal, then you're going to find that you're in trouble again. Yeah. So it's important to do that. Or
even failure to do the renewal application. You'll be required to, at a future sitting, then to apply for a new license, as if you never had a license before. So it's also important to do the renewal application each time you are to
and pay the required fee.
The required fee, or else you'll be applying as if you're applying for the first time.
Yeah. Does the Inland Revenue Department have a booklet or brochure information with printed information, with printed material with all this information that a person could go over and study and get all this information in one pamphlet or brochure, so that they will be au fait with the tax codes and what they need to do to be compliant?
Yeah, like I said earlier, or even now at the department, or you come in and we have brochures on each of the various type of taxes. And there is, I think, pretty good information in there as to the rates and dates and penalties and what is basically required.
We have the website as well.
Yes.
So tell us about the website. You can go to that's good. That's what we do. That's what we do in our websites now. Yeah. So what is the website address?
The website address is the general government website, which is bvi.gov.vg, and then you'll have to look for Inland Revenue, the Department Inland Revenue, and then under our page you will have all the information as it pertains to the taxes that we collect, when they're due, what's the rate, and other general information that you can find there. If forms are required, the forms are there. And so if you can access the website, is bvi.gov.vg, and then you look for Inland Revenue and all the information will come up as you do your search.
What we don't have yet is e-filing, but it's on our radar.
E-filing,
Yes.
so you could file online.
Yes.
That'd
pay
be
online.
Great. And pay
Yes.
online. That'd be great. Yes. Commissioner Aaron, thank you for coming. Deputy Commissioner R.S. Thomas, thank you. And Assistant Commissioner Charles Benjamin, thank you for being my guest on Spotlight. And I'm really glad to have that information.
Well, thank you for
Thank you for having us.
Yes. We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to come back with Mr. Elton Calwood. He's the Managing Director of Rely On Marketing Group. And we're going to be talking about this fantastic Home and Garden Expo that's coming up in a few days. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands and CCT Global Communications.